Everybody has a story, whether they like it or not. We live in the age where you are immediately discoverable. People are going to find you. If you don't curate what they discover, that's a bit of a problem.
This week on Cleared for Takeoff, I have Neal Foard. Neal is a world-renowned master storyteller.
A story is a way of communicating that you're a human being in the same journey that everybody else is on, that you can be trusted, that you can be liked. This is why brands spend so much money making sure to tell the story of what they do and why they do it. Nike, they would do a commercial featuring Michael Jordan, and you're thinking, well, Michael Jordan, possibly the greatest basketball player of all time. What's the story they choose to tell? It's not about how great he is. It's about the number of times he failed.
26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed.
Now, why would they do that? Because they want to take Michael Jordan and turn him into a human being when we're telling stories in an office or a business context. It's really important that for a leader, whether they realize it or not.
Neal Foard, welcome to Cleared for Takeoff.
Thank you, Charles.
It is so great to have you.
It's super good to be here.
Neal, you are known as the ultimate storyteller. And I want to learn from you today, why does storytelling matter, especially in business? And what makes a great story?
Shall I launch in?
Please.
So everybody has a story, whether they like it or not. We live in the age where you are immediately discoverable. So I meet you, Charles, at some function, and I decide, hey, I'm going to do a little research on Charles. So I go to LinkedIn, and I go to YouTube, and I go to Google. People are going to find you. And if you don't curate what they discover, if you don't take some pains to make sure that what they are going to find is an accurate reflection of you, that's a bit of a problem. And just telling a story, the ability to tell stories, particularly in video, is a way for people to know you before they meet you, or if they've just met you, to get a bigger, more accurate sense of who you are. And this is why brands, Nike, Apple, what have you, IMS, this is why brands spend so much money on making sure to tell the story of their brand and tell the story of what they do and why they do it. You've got a quote out there, the Simon Sinek quote, which I absolutely love. People don't care so much what you do, they care why you do it. The operative word being care. You've probably heard this phrase, people don't care what you think until they think you care.
Yeah.
And a story is a way of communicating that you're a human being in the same journey that everybody else is on, that you can be trusted, that you can be liked. And a great example of a sort of story is from the days of, when Nike was really in the sweet spot, is they would do a commercial featuring Michael Jordan. And you're thinking, well, Michael Jordan, possibly the greatest basketball player of all time. What's the story they choose to tell? It's not about how great he is. It's about the number of times he didn't win the game on the last second, about the number of times he failed. Now, why would they do that? Because they want to take Michael Jordan and turn him into a human being so that you don't just admire him, you like him. My own sort of operating principle is that life gets so much easier when people like you.
I mean, that's so true.
Well, and you know how there's a kind of a current, I don't know what you'd call it. There's a trope where people say, I'm not here to make friends, I'm just here to win. It's like, brother, you're playing the game wrong if you're not making friends, because people have choices. They don't have to like you. They don't have to do business with you. There's no law of the universe that says because you're the best at something, people are automatically going to come towards you. That's why it's so important for brands to have a story so that people understand, oh, I like them well enough to vote for them with my money. Now, typically in any kind of business, you're thinking to yourself, well, how can I use storytelling, to broadcast my own brand, to try to make sure that people like me? There's a kind of a crazy thing. It's not so much important how you tell it, it's what you decide to talk about. Because the subject that you use is the thing that decides whether people feel like your priorities are in the right place. I'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about. So I had this thing happen to me where I got 2 flat tires in the same instant. I clipped a curb and I ripped out the sidewalls on both my left tires.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So I was in a very bad mood. But the good news was I was within 500 feet of a tire store. So I was experiencing mixed emotions. Do you know what I mean? It could be worse.
You're like, dang, this sucks, but thank you, God.
Right.
I'm not far
I
from a
was
tire
exactly there. So, so I'm in the waiting room getting 2 new shoes put on my car, and on either side of me there are these 2 women. They were both roughly the same age, but hovering in that 50-year-old zone. They looked like they'd been dressed by the same person, hairstyled at the same salon. They were the same ethnicity. Just everything about them read like they were neighbors and saw eye to eye on everything. Now, on this one side of me, the one woman was talking loudly into her cell phone about a bad experience that she'd had at a restaurant where her order had been wrong twice. And she was very upset because she thinks the second time the waiter had done it deliberately. Okay. And as she told the story, I guess a mimosa got thrown, and she wanted to have this waiter fired, and the manager wasn't having it. And so she was leaving a scathing Yelp review, and she was even contemplating putting up signs on the telephone poles around, the restaurant, right? So she finally ends her call, and the other woman waits about 10 seconds and then leans into me and says, I had a very good experience at a restaurant yesterday. I was having my coffee, looking out the window, and there was this very cute girl that came by with a big dog, and she was walking the dog, and she sees this elderly gentleman waiting to cross the street. Well, it's a big boulevard, and he's very reticent about crossing the street. So this young woman goes right up to him and takes him by the hand and walks him across the street to 2 of them while the dog patrols in front of the cars to make sure nobody gets any fancy ideas. And then when they get to the other side, and this was the part I loved, I couldn't hear what they were saying, obviously, but they were talking and talking for a long time, and eventually they just walked off together arm in arm. Isn't that wonderful? And I went, yes, that is wonderful. Now, Charles, here's my question to you. Who would you rather spend the day with?
Oh, the person telling the nice story.
Right. So what she was doing with her story was what she'd chosen to talk about reflected her personality.
Oh.
Right? She wasn't complaining about the world. She was giving us a sense of how there's still beauty in the world if you have eyes to see it. And what does she notice? She notices the nice things. She notices the wonderful, reassuring, the human experience in a way where you go, I crave to spend Thanksgiving with this woman.
Yeah.
And that's very much like what we all have to decide when we're telling stories in an office or a business context is, what is the story that you choose to tell? What does it reflect about you? And I think that may be the one thing that that's the number one thing I try to teach all the people that I consult with on storytelling is you're already 50 yards in on your drive if you choose to talk about something uplifting, because uplifting people, are easy
it's
to
more
be
of an energy transfer.
It's funny you should say that, but you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. You sort of vibrated a frequency.
Yeah.
You send off a signal about who you are. And when you talk about uplifting things, it has an effect on you. I had an old mentor who used to say, be careful what you say because you're listening.
I mean, you don't think about it that way.
Right. But the language that you use, the things you choose to talk about, they reinforce your own attitude in the world. This poor woman, she doesn't realize it, that she's farting her grievances into our lives. And it's actually, she's the one who has to deal with
she has to live with herself.
Shit. Right? And I'm pretty sure the waiter didn't get the second order wrong on purpose.
I don't know. I've been to some restaurants where I'm like, I don't know. So when there are obviously different positions in companies of varying sizes, everybody has a story to tell, right? So regardless of if you're brand new and, right on the front line, or you're the CEO or founder of the company, the stories you tell make a big difference in how you're perceived. And would you say that it's almost more important when you're the leader that you're telling the right stories?
From the standpoint of all of us, 100%, the leader needs to be the one who establishes a culture and a belief system based on what they talk about. For example, are you a Vikings fan?
Well, it's kind of hard to be a Vikings fan, except for the fact that I live in Minnesota.
Okay.
But
well, you're in the NFC North.
When they're doing well, I love them.
Okay. In the NFC North, the Lions were a kind of laughingstock for decades. And then along comes Dan Campbell. And one of Dan Campbell's great talents is that storytelling ability to say, brothers, we're in this together. We are going to win this. And even if we don't win it, we're going to go down fighting.
Yeah.
And Dan Campbell has a knack for being, sorry for bouncing all over the place. I get so excited talking about MCDC because everything he does right. He's 100% himself. I'll bet you, I would be willing to bet the house on the fact that if you meet him in person, he's just like you expect him to be.
Mm.
He just reads like, this is who he is 100% of the time. And he's not, sometimes he's upset, but it's always from a place of love. It's always from a place of we're in this together.
Mm.
And when he gave that first speech at his press conference where they were introducing him, in 90 seconds, he told that story about how we're going to model our style of play on the city of Detroit. It is a city that has been beaten and bruised, and it was down, but it got up, and it kept getting up. And that's how we're going to be. You're going to knock us down, and we're going to get back up. But when we get up, we're going to bite off a kneecap. And then you knock us down again, and we're going to get up again, and we're going to take the other kneecap. And then you knock us down a third time, and we're going to take another hunk out of you. And by the time we're finished, we're going to be the last one standing. And I thought, if I'm from Detroit, I go, I am never going to stop rooting for this team.
Yeah.
Because the team is modeled on the city, and this guy gets it, and he understands us. And if Dan Campbell was your coach in Detroit, you can't move the team. Not that the Fords would move the team, but you can't move the team now because they're married to Detroit.
Yeah.
And I sat there watching it going, his press conference was only like 90 seconds. And he told that kneecap story in about 60 seconds. And I thought, oh, he's a master. He may not even know it,
Yeah.
but he's doing all the right things. He's saying in this story, we're in this together.
Yeah.
And so many, like the Raiders are a good example. I was a lifelong Raiders fan. And then they moved.
Mm.
And then they moved again. And then they moved again. And you just go, what do I owe you? I owe you nothing. You're like somebody who's been married 3 times. And now you're on your 4th wedding, and I'm supposed to be excited about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I say, it would be almost impossible to move the Detroit Lions now.
For sure. They're ingrained in
Yeah.
almost the ethos of the city.
Yeah. It's really important that for a leader of an organization like you in your organization, that there's not only, hey, this is where we're going, but this is why we're going there. This is how we're going to get there. And every leader, whether they realize it or not, they cast a shadow over their organization. They establish a kind of energy and a certain vibration. And if I were to make any recommendation to any CEO, it's like, you gotta understand, people are relying on you for this. They need to know from you, what are we about? Why does it matter? And maybe that's common knowledge, but I would say you got to actually rehearse it. You have to have it down so that when the opportunity arrives and you want to be talking about what your company does and why they do it and why it matters and how do you do it, you got to have that down. And you got to really make it so that people believe you. And part of believing is you got to believe it.
It's funny because during COVID, there were so many hard times being in the events industry.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I feel like the only way we would survive was by telling good stories of who we are and who we are becoming. And it's interesting because there's so much of our fabric today that's rooted in the team mentality we had to get through COVID. And, there were plenty of companies that were on the edge of bankruptcy, if not bankrupt, especially in the events industry.
Yeah.
And we kept saying, that's not us. We're going to keep getting up. We're going to keep fighting for the business. And instead of losing all revenue that year, we were only down 20% during COVID in the events industry.
Oh, you must have pivoted real quick.
We did. But it all came down to the story I was telling the team, which is, this is temporary. We're going to get through this. In fact, I got contacted by the city that we're in, telling us that they got wind we were still gathering in person to work. And they were upset with us. And I said, well, you're going to have to send the police then, because the only way I can keep our morale and keep this company alive so we can keep paying taxes in this town is if we come together, you know? And it was like, we had to create that story around who we are, where we're going. And today we still talk about that and how important that is to our culture, is being together. I mean, we're in the business of gathering people. So if we're not gathering, what does that say about what we believe?
You know, it's funny, Charles, you're kind of natural. I don't know if you even know how good you are at this, but I've been watching you, and you and I have known each other for a couple of years. And as I watch you, you have these two strengths. Forgive me for frothing on about how great you are, because it makes people uncomfortable. But here are the two things that I see. As I watch you walking around your space, you are very much all about other people. Like, you are talking to them and chatting them up and getting close to them. And so you have a kind of natural attraction to being a member of the tribe.
Yeah.
That's a real strength for a leader, to be interested in other people.
When you start I think there's such a difference between people who start a business that evolves into something bigger versus people who either buy or inherit a business.
Yeah.
Right. Because I had to be there in the beginning when I was being told terrible things and I had to stand up for our team, or you guys don't have any talent, or whatever it was. And it just created a different mindset for me. So for me, I look at the team as like, they're like, those are my people.
Well, it's funny, because that's the second thing, is that when I'm watching you interact with others, and there's a vibe which comes off you, which is, I really, really want to win.
I do.
Like, right?
I do.
You really want to win. It's just, it's coming off you like an effluvium. Okay. But the second thing is, but I feel it like I want us to win.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't enough for you to win. It was, you were going around and you were introducing me to everybody in the building.
Yeah.
You introduced me to everybody in the building.
Yeah, everyone that's here.
Everybody. And there was a certain thrill, this kind of matchmaking you were doing, saying, hey, you know, this guy, are you going to be free at 1? We're going to do this thing, and so forth. And I'm just going, oh, people need to take a page out of this guy's book. It's sort of part P.T. Barnum, part Simon Sinek. You know, it's a really nice thing for a leader to be interested in other people, because my sense of it is, when you're telling the story, it's kind of not I, me. It's us. It's
we.
That's again, it's the Dan Campbell thing. That guy would rather die than let his players down.
Yeah.
And because of that, they go, well, right back at you, buddy. You know, we'll run through walls.
I mean, that's something I really admire about leaders that have teams like that. And I really look up to them. I read a lot of Pat Lencioni, and his stuff is amazing. But what I want to learn from you is, first of all, how do I make sense of, okay, I'm the CEO. I don't want to be very visible online. I don't want to put myself out there, because there's a lot of people that believe that.
Yeah, I understand.
How do I, number one, get over that, right? But number two, how do I create my story so that when the world does come across my LinkedIn or my Instagram, or, you know, whatever it is that I'm doing, that it's authentic to who I am? How do I do that?
Well,
because no one likes listening to some long-winded story that's not relevant to them.
Yeah. In the course of a life, of anybody's life, there are going to be things that shape them, things that make them who they are. And for any leader, you were asking, like, how? Okay, here's how. You got to do an inventory of all of the people and all of the events that made you who you are. You have to write them down. There was this person who was a mentor. Or I'll bet you've had this, where you have a kind of protege, or you're really bringing somebody along, and in the process of doing that, they've taught you something.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure. Many times.
Okay. That is a very, very important thing for a leader to express. What did I learn from my protege?
Interesting.
Because, you know what? Let's just take a tangent off that for a second.
Yeah.
I think a mentor-protege relationship is one of the vastly underestimated tools for success in any workplace. I'll give you a sense about what I mean. COVID was one of these things where we had to all separate for a time. We had to go off into our separate spaces, and now we were only communicating virtually or if we were meeting under very awkward circumstances. And it drove us all away. And now people discovered that when they were independent and they were free to, shepherd their own time, there were lots of little conveniences about it, avoiding commuting time, being able to take care of people that needed help at certain times, the freedom to go to a doctor's appointment and so on. You became masters of your own time. You're very reluctant to give that back when everybody says, hey, let's go back into the office. But there are very good reasons for going back into the office. Now, on the one hand, as a leader, you can say, everybody needs to come back into the office because I said so. Okay, you sure you want to do it that way, bro? And maybe they have good reasons, but they're not telling the story of the good reasons. And I heard this from a leader and I just went, oh, that's beautiful. He said, I'm offering this to you guys. There are lots of good reasons why you may not want to come back into the office, but there are some good reasons why you might want to. Now, I'm at a stage in my own career where I want to be able to develop and bring along people that want to become leaders in this business. And it's a great pleasure of mine to be able to have people in the office who ask me questions and I can give advice to and whom I can spend time with. And I've found that when you spend time with the boss, it's a really great place to learn stuff that you wouldn't have otherwise known. And what's more, FaceTime with the boss is not a bad thing when it comes time for promotions. I'm not saying you'll only get promoted. I'm just saying it's a lot easier if I know who you are.
Yeah.
And he said, but it really is the great pleasure of my life to develop talent. And that's a lot easier for you to develop your own talent if you're here to have it developed. Now, I hear that version of it and I go, you're not going to be able to keep me away from the office because what he's communicating is he's open to helping me out. And all of a sudden, it's kind of not about him and it's not about coming back in because I said so. I'm just offering you this as an advantage if you want to take it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's providing a perspective of, yeah, sure, you've got to come into the office, but the opportunity is there.
Yeah. There are anybody who's had a mentor in an office understands that it's not always who you think it's going to be. I had people that I didn't work for that turned out to be my mentors. And that was the greatest of the relationships because they took a personal interest in you because they saw you were struggling or they saw that you had talent that wasn't being exploited. We're human beings. We're human beings. And human beings are flawed cocktails of competing impulses.
Yeah.
We don't even know what we're good at necessarily unless there's somebody there to appreciate it and bring it out of us. I'm just saying that the difference between insisting somebody coming back into the office and telling them a story about why they might want to come back into the office, it's a very different vibration. The people, by the way, given that opportunity, who do you think's going to show up? It's people that want that opportunity.
100%.
That's going to create an energy in the workplace where even when you're competing against somebody, if you respect their talents, it's kind of fun. Joe Walsh, or what's his name? I cannot remember the name of the one-time 49ers coach, Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was famous for developing other coaches. Like so many people came out of his system and went on to be great coaches in the NFL. Walsh, on the eve of a Super Bowl where they were against a team that they were a very even match with, said to the players in their locker room before they went out there, you have no idea the gift you're being given today. That is a very intimidating team you're playing. They are very, very good. There is a chance we won't win today. But you know what's going to happen if you do win? You will have beaten the best. And that is something you will treasure for the rest of your life. That it was not an easy game. You had to fight and tooth and claw. But when you came out the other side, you beat the best. And that's how you'll, trust me when I tell you, that's how you'll want it years from now. And I thought, what a great way of saying, even if it's tough and even if you lose, there's still great valor and there's a win in the attempt. There's a win in respecting your competition. And I thought, you know what? In a workplace where it's all high achievers, they're ambitious people that wanted to come in
Yeah.
and fight. There's actually a joy in respecting your competition.
That's so true in business too. I mean, I've got peers in the industry who are CEOs of competing companies, and I admire the crap out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know what
Because
it takes.
you know better than anyone how hard it is
Yeah.
to do it well. And when you see somebody doing it well, you're uniquely positioned to appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think about how do I better tell stories, not only to my team, but to the rest of the world about my team. And what I want to know from you is when you kind of put this cocktail together of what makes a powerful story, well, like, why should people care about
Yeah.
you or what you're doing? How do you formulate that?
I work backwards from the end being, why am I telling you this? What's the lesson here? I always work backwards from the moral of the story. By the way, there's a very quick, there's something that I always tell people that I'm coaching, which is that it's funny how you can't bullet point your way to making an emotional connection. That human beings are deeply emotional creatures. And it's a quality of being a mammal. You seek warmth and you seek belonging and you seek the protection of a group. And you thrive on friendship because it makes you feel safe and it makes you feel appreciated. If you work backwards from the moral of the story, it's very much like an Aesop's fable. Every Aesop's fable has a moral. They don't just tell you a joke. There's a reason why it matters that you heard this. And when you do tell a story that has a moral, there are two quantities that most people underestimate. So the one is, you can remember, right now, you could tell me the story of the tortoise and the hare, but you probably haven't heard it told in 15 years.
Or longer.
Or longer. How do you remember? It's the operating system of human beings. It's how we remember information, is in narrative chronological form. That's how we remember information. I don't think enough business leaders appreciate that if you want to leave somebody with a lasting impression, it's right there in front of you, whether it's Goldilocks and the Three Bears or the story of David and Goliath or any of the parables from the Bible, the Good Samaritan. You haven't heard it told in all those years, and yet not only can you repeat it, but you can tell me what it means. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I go, what point would you like to make? We'll build your story based on the point you want to make. And for example, you say like, there's a great Voltaire quote, one of my favorites, which is, life is a shipwreck, but we must remember to sing in the lifeboats. Okay. And I was aboard this Philippines airline. It was called Cebu Air. And we were on a trip from Hong Kong to Kota Kinabalu. Okay, it was a short hop, maybe 2 hours. And the flight crew, I did not know that this was possible on an airplane, but essentially it was a Broadway production. They had these 3 Philippines crew members. There were 2 women and 1 guy. The guy was like a Filipino Kevin Hart, and the 2 women were, one was this gorgeous supermodel, and the other was this vivacious pixie. I think she was cracking 4'11", maybe, but she had that magic dust. And they gave the safety briefing in 4-part harmony. Okay, now how do you do?
They sang it.
They sang the safety briefing.
Okay.
Which clearly had been rehearsed. And I thought, wait a minute. They did it on the microphones, the little things.
Yeah.
And there was a 4th voice. It was the pilot. The pilot was singing too. And I was going, oh my God, is this a thing this airline does? Well, anyway, after singing the safety briefing, they come down the aisle, they're handing out only water, and they're saying that the reason we're only doing water is because we need to speed this along so that we have enough time for the show.
The show?
The show.
On an airplane.
On this flight, they had timed it out. They did a kind of ersatz dating game where they brought a woman up to the front, put a blindfold on her, and then they had 3 guys answering questions that they had picked out, so that she would pick a date. And then at the end of the date, they gave them the liquor they didn't serve on the plane. And then they were throwing T-shirts out to us, Cebu Air T-shirts, and they were doing a bingo I mean, it was crazy.
And were you thinking to yourself, is this on every one of their flights or just this
I
one?
assumed it was on every flight, and it turns out it wasn't. It was just them. It was just the four of them. They had decided, we're going to make this flight like a time machine. You're going to get off this plane younger than you got on.
You forgot you were on a plane.
There's a great Rory Sutherland, who's the vice chairman of Ogilvy in the UK. He loves to tell the story of how when engineers try to solve a problem, they try to make the journey faster. But when marketing people try to solve the same problem, they just make the journey more fun so nobody complains about how long it takes. And that was what this crew had done, is they had decided this crew were just show people that wound up in the airline business. They were, they probably all could tell you the lyrics to Wicked. And they just one day decided they were going to go whole hog. And what I so loved about the experience, you're in the experience business. So you, of all people, would completely appreciate what it was like to be on that plane. For me, I was, as a kind of professional storyteller, I was going, this is the only thing any of us will talk about from this trip. We're not going to talk about what happened at the convention. The lasting impression is going to be this occasion. Now, the reason I tell it is because when I tell you that story, it has a kind of moral, which is when you are having fun, time disappears. Like when people are having fun, time stops or slows down or speeds up because you don't want it to end.
Right.
And anybody that's doing a live event needs to curate an experience that people will talk about. And sometimes it's just in the idea that you're not afraid to have fun. Can you imagine somebody trying to pull the same thing in the US?
It'd be hard to imagine.
It would be really hard to pull that off.
Yeah.
But there was just something about these people that made it okay
Yeah.
for you to enjoy yourself on the airplane.
Well, it's kind of refreshing when you see somebody that's got the energy that wants to pour into others, right? When you talk about telling stories, like you've told me a number of stories since you got here last night. We went to dinner.
Yeah.
And how we all have been with somebody that tells stories and they spend all this energy building up and giving you all this detail that when the moment of payoff happens, you're like, why did you include all that waste of time? Right? How do you decide how much of a story is fluffy crap and how much of a story is important to the payoff?
Yeah. You're asking all the right questions. So I've got sort of three answers to your question. I'll start with the first answer, which is not enough people realize they need to rehearse these stories. Like if the story matters in the telling, whether it's, let's say you're at a wedding and you're doing a toast, you better rehearse the crap out of that. Rehearse.
So don't wing it.
Don't wing it. And the reason you do that is so that you can shake the bubbles out, just like you were describing that, that sometimes there's too much detail and it bogs everything down. It's like weeds in the propeller. So you got to rehearse it so you can listen to it back. Also, use your phone. We've been given the most unbelievable piece of technology because you can film yourself. Easy peasy. You can film yourself telling the story and watch it back. Most people are very uncomfortable watching themselves tell a story. Well, brother, the day you can get comfortable watching yourself is the day you turn pro, because then you'll never not rehearse it and see how you like it and tune it up and make sure when you do that, by the way, you get more confident because you feel like you've got it. And confidence is part of the vibe. And by the way, when I say that term, shake the bubbles out, the head of Sony years and years ago, when they would make something like a Walkman or a radio, he would literally take the device in its prototype form and drop it in a glass of water to see how much air escaped, because his object was to have no wasted space inside the container. He wanted these devices as small as they could be made. So he would shake the bubbles out so it was just perfect for what it contained. Now, the second answer to the question, first is you got to rehearse these things. I know it seems weird, but no, if the story is important to you, rehearse it, work it out. Now, the second thing is, how much detail is too much detail? If people had no body fat, it would actually be weirdly creepy.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of fat in the right places on a human body is really attractive.
Yeah.
You know, for both men and women. You know, you don't want to be drawn and gaunt. You don't want it to be just gink, gink, gink. A story should have a little body fat.
Okay.
It should have a little bit of accent. And often that's just in the choice of words. If you can, like I say, if you can rehearse a story, you can start putting cool words in. I'll give you an example. So I'm going to tell a story right now. And it's a true story about how I was in an airport, and I want to note the sort of choices of words. So my friend Marcus and I were in an airport. We were going off to Chicago. Chicago was having a weather event. We were in Los Angeles. The problem is Chicago is a hub like LA, like Atlanta. And if there's a weather event in that city, it affects a lot of flights. So delayed, canceled, delayed on these things while we're trying to go and check our luggage. And everybody is being just the most unruly swamp donkeys in this place. They are being really rude to the women at the counter who are taking the bags. And we're
People who have nothing to do with this decision.
Thank you. They don't have a switch behind the counter that they can flick and make the weather okay in Chicago. And yet everybody's acting like it's their fault.
Yeah.
And they're just being insufferable. And the whole place is a simmering zoo. Now, just before we get up there are these two gals are just about had it with the human race. And the couple in front of us is the worst offenders of all. They're being condescending and they're being insistent. No, there must be another flight you could put, et cetera, et cetera. By the time they leave, this woman has a 10,000-yard stare. She has survived Verdun. Okay, so we get up there, and before she can say anything, my pal Marcus pulls this little miniature troll doll out of his pocket. It's about this big. It has flaming pink hair. And he goes, "Oh boy, those two are in big trouble." And the woman goes, "What?" He goes, "Bjarki saw the whole thing, and all the trolls know each other, and they don't like bullies. And if you feed him before the sun goes down, he'll have his revenge." And then he pulls out some M&Ms and he says, "These are his favorite." And he gives it to this woman. Now, she takes this thing and the partner next to her goes, "Can we feed him now?" And he goes, "Okay, now here's what's happened. I just watched a master class in how to improve someone's day. Because what he did was he shocked her. He shocked her out of remembering those people. He was so weird and so unexpected. It was such a jolt to her system. She was 100% now focused on this crazy lunatic, this good-natured loon in front of me. And the other partner was like, by all means, let's have our revenge immediately. Now, here's what probably happened. I wasn't there to see it, but here's what probably happened. They took the little troll doll, they put a couple of M&Ms in front of him, and every time somebody came up that was sort of a jerk, they would put another M&M in front of him. And it became a kind of legend at the table. And now, instead of being upset with everybody that came up, they were going, "Brother, you have no idea what's headed your way. The trolls are coming after you." Okay. So it was like Marcus had wiped the whiteboard clean of all of the baggage and all the BS. And he'd say, "We're all in this together. I'm a good person. You're going to meet more of them." When we got to the gate, I didn't realize those two gals that were in front of the bags, you meet them again at the gate. Have you had this experience where it's the same people?
Yeah.
They go with the flight. Guess who got an upgrade? Marcus. I didn't. But Marcus got an upgrade. Okay, so the moral of the story is it's so easy to help people have a better day. And sometimes it comes back to you right away. Now, let me tell you why I tell you that story. Because of the terms swamp donkey and simmering zoo, both of which you kind of smiled and laughed at. Those were not the first time I told that story. Those were not in that story. But when you walk it back, you go, what would be fun here is to come up with a crazy description
of the situation,
of the
of the people.
So it doesn't it doesn't slow down the narration, but what it does do is it gives it more flavor.
Yeah.
And you can do that like Crazy Loon and stuff like that.
So you deliberately are crafting your short stories with interesting but not detractive pieces.
It adds flavor, but it doesn't add calories. It's a nice way of going, this is an opportunity for me to improve it and add color without slowing it down. And there's another thing that when it comes to adding a little fat to the story is like 10,000 yard stare, where you go, the expression on her face was like somebody who had survived Verdun. That's fat. You don't need to know that, but it helps to understand how she's having a disagreeable experience and it has drawn out of her, the will to survive. So
it just gives this whole nother level to relatability with her.
Now, you would never know that I rehearsed that and crafted that. That's what I'm telling you now, is it doesn't feel like something that, it doesn't feel like I've worked it. It just feels spontaneous. But so much of storytelling that feels spontaneous is very heavily, rehearsed. If you watch a great stand-up comedian, Patton Oswalt, Patrice O'Neill, they worked their material. I mean, night after night, they were finessing it and tuning it up. I watched Patton Oswalt I happened to see 2 shows of his back to back. He had tweaked it a little bit the second time, and it was better. And I thought, oh, okay. The great ones are not great by accident. The great ones understand it's an art form. It's a performance. It's a sports performance. And if you're really into it, if you really want to be good at it, a little practice doesn't hurt. Practice is something not everybody will do. That's your advantage in business. Is you go, if I'm doing something somebody won't do or can't do, I have the advantage here. And I want to go back to one of your earlier questions, which was I didn't adequately answer. What if you don't kind of like being on camera and you still understand the power of a brand and the power of sending a message to your organization, but you're kind of uncomfortable? Well, my brothers and sisters, we live in the age of video. That's where we are.
It's only increasing.
That's where we are. You're going to have to get good at it, or better than you are now. And what you're going to find is, the pool is very cold when you jump in, but you get used to it. And you know what? A little improvement. You have this experience because you work out.
Yeah. And
so you're working out, and then one day you catch, oh, damn, I've got a tricep. Oh my God, look at that. All of a sudden you start working out like a fiend because you see results.
Yeah.
That's how it is when you start watching yourself on camera and starting getting better. You go, ooh, that wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. And that confidence, that saying, I'm going to embrace this now. I'm going to run towards it. I'm going to try and do this better. That confidence is really powerful.
So that's really interesting that it builds confidence. Now, there are different mediums that people have success with, right? It's not just video. Although video is one that I want to ask you many more questions about. But what other mediums do you see as being effective for leaders to use? Do you think it's writing? Do you think it's how do you see the best mediums being used?
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations on even thinking of that question. Everybody receives information differently. And I used to have a partner who was an absolute master at leaving people thank you notes. He was an artist. He was a brilliant artist. So what he would do is he would do these little cards and he would draw these figures and stuff on them. And he would thank people for helping him on a project. Or we would be on a commercial shoot and he would bring with him what he called his home field advantage. He would bring with him a stack of these cards that had rubber stamps on them. They're like crazy little things like a minotaur or something. And he would leave a note for crew people saying, hey, I saw what you did there. That was really, that was very clever. Or, way to recover on this. Or, thanks for being a positive thing. People would get these notes and they would keep them for years. because they were so unusual, to get this little table tent, to recognize what they'd done. What that was an indication of, without having to tell a story, was I've noticed you. You've done something good and it didn't go unrecognized. And that sends a very powerful signal when you're in an organization, and this is a regular quality of yours, that you recognize talent and you recognize when people are being extra nice and human beings. He would also leave notes for people saying, like, I noticed, you're not your usual vivacious self, and I'm hoping everything's okay. If you want to talk about something, I'm here. It's like, even if don't want to talk about it, somebody told you they cared about you as a human being. That's one milieu. That's one, medium. Another one is just the gesture of, noticing people in general. You don't have to leave a note, but you just notice them in general. That's its own medium. Saying.
You're saying verbally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just catching someone in the hallway and saying, that didn't go unnoticed. It's really nice when somebody says or does something that was really good, and somebody takes the time to pull them aside and say, I saw that. That was a good move. And so personal human connection is good. And thank you notes, like letters. When was the last time you got a letter in the mail that wasn't a bill or wasn't, an official communication?
I mean, you remember them for sure. I mean, thank you notes are great, few and far between. My chief operating officer has this rubber stamp, and it's basically like a picture of his face.
Oh, nice.
And it says,
Clever.
It says something like Kyle approved, and he'll stamp it on something. And it's
a good move.
It's how he finishes thank you notes and letters. It's very memorable.
Yeah.
And it's like his little signature thing.
So think about what he's doing. And I could see you doing that too. And what he's doing is he's saying, first of all, just the fact that I wrote you this note, I'm already ahead of the game. And then among those of us who are competing, because we do this sort of thing, I'm going to add this extra little seasoning. I'm going to have my face. Now it's personalized. And now in the effort, he's communicated how much he cares about you. Like, for example, the fact that you would write a thank you note in an age when you can just email.
Or shoot a text.
Right. I mean, a text is nice. An email is nice. That's appreciated. But when you get a letter, what it said is, I went and got a piece of paper. I hand wrote this. Yeah. I put a rubber stamp on it. I went and got a stamp. I put it in the mailbox. It says, because you were worth the extra time it took me to do this. And it's a very powerful thing to tell someone that you care about them by demonstrating how much effort you put into it.
Yeah. I mean, in a digital age, it's like, it's so unusual to get a handwritten anything. Yeah. And I mean, we open letters that have your name addressed by hand.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. It's right. Exactly. So how much cooler is it if it turns out that the whole note was handwritten and it really was legit? It wasn't just a machine that could scale the appearance of handwriting.
Yeah.
And what each of these things does, whether you are congratulating someone with a little card, or you're putting a rubber stamp on a thank you note, or you're taking the time to write them a post, or you're calling them up or anything like that. Each of these things, what do they achieve? The sense that you care about them. And to go back to the early principle, people don't really care what you think until they think you care. Mm. And these things are gestures that are not really that time intensive. But let me go to then the medium of video. Video gives you a chance to be, if you're not in person, it still gives you a chance to be who you are in an authentic way, so that have you gotten these? I'll bet you've gotten one of these. It's somebody's trying to sell you something and they'll send you a video. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, Charles, I just wanted to say, it was a pleasure to meet you and blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, that's pretty slick, because it was like they were right there. It was practically them right there. And video is such a powerful tool for that. Even when it's on a screen, if you look authentic and it's well done.
We use it as a hiring tool, actually. So what we do is when we're hiring, because we want to get someone's energy, someone's essence, is we say, please submit a short video telling us about yourself. It's basically the first 2 or 3 minutes of an interview where they get a chance to tell you about them.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it weeds out, I'm telling you, it weeds out 90% of applicants because 10% of them will actually send the video. And
Okay.
those are the people that get the interview.
Let's tell every lens. Okay. 90% get weeded out. If you're going to be that 10%, brother, you got to rehearse.
Practice.
You got to practice.
Yeah. My assistant, Jake, when we were hiring, he submitted a video and I knew within 10 seconds that this guy was going to be great. I was like, he is exactly what I'm looking for. And it was 10 seconds. And he had tailwind the entire process because of that video.
Yeah. See, that's such a great term. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
He had a tailwind the entire
Yeah,
process.
it's a pilot.
We met. Yeah. That's part of your brand. When we met him out in front, yeah, he's a very rapid, like all we did was shake hands and he said hello and stuff. And immediately that guy's established simpatico.
Yeah.
He's got a good vibe, that cat. So I can understand why he went on video.
Yeah.
Like,
And the video is really a key part of that. I have a question for you, just shifting topics. I've got to spend time quarterly addressing the company. We do like a quarterly presentation here, like a state of the company.
Yeah.
And we do it every quarter. When you're putting stories into your presentation because you want to have impact, how do I decide how many stories and how much is too much?
Okay. Well, first of all, just having any stories at all, you're already a leg up because of all of the things people will remember from that briefing. They're going to remember the story part of it, and they'll remember the lesson from it. Now, generally speaking, in my own experience, anything that comes from your personal experience is a powerful, it gives you the opportunity to describe something that shaped you. I don't happen to know sort of some of the things that you're going to cover in these things, but if you decide to recognize people in a meeting, it isn't enough to say, good job, Jerry, or I want to thank Denise for having achieved her sales goal. No, you need to personalize it in such a way that it would be a little bit like, I want to tell you a story about a young woman in this company. She may not recognize herself at first, but this is why I want to tell it. She achieved this thing, but she achieved it the right way. It's not enough to achieve a goal. You need to fly the flag of this organization when you achieve things. You leave an impact on every single interaction and every single transaction that you do. And the reason I'm proud of her for having achieved this thing is because she did it the way we do it. She was ethical. She didn't charge them as much as she might have charged them because she was interested in the long term. She wasn't trying to make this sale. She was trying to make 12 sales by indicating to this customer that she would take care of them and she would watch out for their interests. And so you get the idea. It's like, you don't just say why, thank you, and you don't just recognize them. You tell the story of why you're thanking them and why you've decided to call them out, because it's a signal to everybody else. This is how we behave here. This is what gets recognized here. It isn't enough to meet your sales goal. You have to do it the right way.
So you don't start with the end, like, I'd like to thank Jerry for doing such a great
job.
Well,
you certainly can.
But it doesn't land the same way.
I'm just saying, building in a little mystery helps them go, who's this about? And then if the person themselves doesn't recognize themselves until the end, so much the better. They go, oh, you're talking about me? Fantastic.
Or you're telling the story and everyone's like, that's me.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room's like, that's me. And then at the end,
you can even bake into your story. It's like, there are a lot of people that do that, but and so you may recognize yourself in that, but I just want to call attention to Denise today. But let's talk about something you and I talked about last night, which is the fact that this is just Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie, for the benefit of those who don't know who I'm talking about, wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think in about 1923.
It's a classic.
It's not just a classic, but it's more than 100 years old now. And almost everything in it is still true. The only thing that's not true still, we're not wearing boater hats and and spats on our shoes. But other than that, it's pretty solid. And it's very much, the whole book is about being authentic and sincere and trying to help other people get what they want so that you can get what you want. It's a master, how to win friends and influence people is a masterclass of making it not about you. And that is the starting place for anybody getting up and doing a briefing to an organization, especially a leader, is it's kind of not about you. It's about us. You're very good at this, by the way. As I was walking around the place with you this morning, it's kind of not about you. And there are signals that you send subconsciously that you're not aware you send when you internalize that lesson. And Carnegie, when it comes to how many stories do you tell during a briefing, front to back, how to win friends and influence people is nothing but stories. It's one story after another about some principle that is illustrated by this thing that he experienced. And this is the moral, which leads me to the next story. So how many stories is too many? Brother, it can be front to back stories as proven by a 100-year-old book that's still relevant. And they'll remember every bit of it because they'll remember each of the tales and the moral that goes with it. So I would suggest that if you had 5 things you wanted to communicate to the organization that day, you should put a story on each one of them.
So a story for each emotional thing, each emotional hit I want to have needs to have some sort of story.
Or it can. I want to reiterate something that it's a real bugaboo of mine, which is there is no emotional impact to bullet points. Bullet points are for memos. They're not for presentations.
Or for me, I use them to cue me up on something.
Okay, well that's, but then that's not really you're just doing it for a trigger for yourself.
Yeah.
But for the benefit of the audience, now let me add the fat to this and then move it along. There's inherent in your question, or I should say, the subtext of your question is a question of pace. How do I keep this thing moving? And as long as the story is interesting, you'll have them in the palm of your hand. Because they want to know how it resolves. Everybody wants to know, well, what happened?
It's so true. I get sucked into it every time.
I always do. I'm a sucker for it. But you got to keep it moving. And what people don't realize is that the inspiration for how to tell a great story, it's all around you. Mostly with stand-up comedians who are the real practitioners of it at its apex. The great storytellers, Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle. These guys, Kevin Hart's a great storyteller.
I love Kevin Hart.
They keep it moving.
So funny. And he keeps his stories moving.
They keep it moving. And part of that is the emotional swings of something. Now, in every Kevin Hart story, in every Chappelle story, there's a protagonist. Chappelle almost never, at least in the past, he almost never made himself the hero of his own story. Even when he was bragging about himself, it was self-deprecating. So he tells this story about being on a limo ride, early in his career, and the limo driver gets a call in the middle of the drive and decides from the call that he needs to make a detour. And I don't know if you've heard that story, but he goes, I'm not going to repeat it because I can't do it justice. All I'm saying is that because he's not the hero of the story, he seems to be the victim at every point during this thing. Even a 2-year-old baby becomes his superior in the telling of this story. And in doing so, he becomes a sympathetic protagonist. He's not the hero. Instead, he's the everyman whom we are relating to as he's telling the story. But he keeps it moving because he says, this happened, but then this happened, and therefore that happened. And oh man, and Kevin Hart's the same way. Hart is rarely the hero of his own tales. Help me.
Yeah.
And Louis C.K. will make these insights and observations, and you realize what he's doing is he's helping us experience the same mental process he went through. You can't portray yourself as the hero because then people don't care what happens to you. They're actually hoping that in the end, something bad happens to you.
The underdog thing, right? Because
They
if you're the
root for
hero,
an underdog.
yeah,
They root for an underdog. And the way to make somebody stick with you during a story is they care what happens to you. So you're telling the story about this woman who's achieved this sales goal. Why should I care? Because she had an opportunity to do something and she didn't do it. And sometimes it's what you don't do that defines who you are. Like a great corporation. There was this one incident that happened to Johnson & Johnson, who was at the time the makers of Tylenol. I don't know if they still are. But there was a Tylenol scare. And in the Tylenol scare, what happened was somebody had poisoned one of the containers of Tylenol, and some people had died in the Chicago metro area. What they were trying to do, I guess, in the end, was they were trying to affect the stock price of Johnson & Johnson by creating this scare. And they were willing to kill people to do it. So, okay. The FBI, who was in charge of the investigation, went to Johnson & Johnson about 3/4 of the way through this and said, we've isolated it to the specific metro area here and here. We believe this is not a national problem. We think it's exclusively here. So if you were going to pull products off the shelves, you don't have to do it everywhere. You can just do it here. To which Johnson & Johnson said, no, because on their walls, their whole motto, their principles were, we will never take chances with the health of our customers. This was an absolute textbook case of, if we're going to live by our principles, we got to yank this product off every store shelf in America, which they did. And it cost them millions of dollars. What do you think happened to the stock price after they yanked all that product off the shelf?
went through the roof.
Why did it go up?
Because trust, because people said, that's integrity. Instead of trying to save a buck and risk some people's lives, we want to trust you because you're trustworthy.
Okay, you nailed it, 100%. That was exactly right. And it turns out it's what they wouldn't do. They wouldn't risk the health of their customers. It's what they wouldn't do that proved where they were. And that resulted in a giant leap in the price of the stock. So when you are congratulating someone, it's often what they didn't do is what makes them heroic, because they proved they lived by the principles.
Yeah.
And that's important, I'm guessing, at a place like
it's what keeps coming to my mind when you were talking about the hero not being the person telling the story, right? When you think about the leader and the CEO of a company, the founder, the figurehead of the company, they're kind of naturally the hero, if you will, by their nature and position. However, I'm wondering, how do you better humanize yourself to make yourself not the hero in presenting and speaking and meeting and talking? And how do you make it more of a servant leadership perspective rather than, because positionally they are the hero, but nobody wants to root for that person. That's why people hate the boss.
Well, so what you're pointing out is that just by using the phrase servant leadership, you've already created the parameters of the stories you tell. Here's what I mean. So the servant leader recognizes that they don't do it alone. That in fact, their real role is to eliminate the barriers to the achievements of the other people.
Right.
What do I have to do to help you do your job better? What training do you need that I can give you? What relationships do you need to cultivate that I can help you do to make your job? How can I help the entire organization feel better about each other? I've worked for companies and consulted with companies where as soon as you walked in the door, you go, oh, they've got a problem. The silos are fighting.
Oh.
Like, this entity over here wants to get the music rights that are owned by this part of the division. And these people are looking at them going, this is where we can really gouge somebody because it's internal. Like, you're not helping me. You're looking at each other as milk cows or sheep to be fleeced, not partners together. A leader determines that. They determine how the silos relate. A leader eliminates barriers. That's how a great organization empowers and trains and cultivates and pulls down barriers for people. Therefore, when a leader is talking or telling stories of the organization, They don't realize it, but they are the hero of every story they tell because they didn't proclaim themselves, because they talked about the other people. Weirdly, by celebrating the virtues of your own people, you get a glow on you.
Yeah.
But it's perverse, but it's 100% right that when you go through the organization celebrating the triumphs of other people and literally taking joy in their achievements,
Yeah.
you get half of that as a dividend.
And why wouldn't you take joy in their achievements?
Well,
That's
but
what
there's
I
a
don't
lot of people that don't have your orientation.
I just don't understand that. Like, if you have people in your company, on your team, that are doing amazing things, what is there not to be excited
Yeah.
about? That is so exciting to me.
Yeah, the best car dealers I've ever seen do exactly what you're talking about.
I
They
had-
love to celebrate the achievements of their own people.
Oh, I mean, I think it's the backbone of retention, is when people feel like they're noticed and that the work they do matters and people see it.
So let's capitalize on what you're saying, because I believe everything you just said with 100% enthusiasm. That means that in an organization, the stories you choose to tell internally and externally are about the triumphs of your people. LinkedIn is a fantastic place to be able to talk about the strengths and the achievements of your own people. And I don't think it gets used enough for that. I have colleagues in the past that I've watched do it brilliantly. Now, here's what they don't do. They don't say, so proud of my team for having achieved Flange Maker of the Year, and then putting a picture of themselves there. I am so proud of my team. They go, I'd like to tell you a story about this person. And it's not a picture of that person that's like a headshot. It's like a spy photo taken from 300 yards while somebody's interacting with a client at an auto show or at an aviation meeting or at a sports venue. And you say, they don't think I noticed, but they did this and this and this. And I don't think I have ever been happier than watching them become what they can be. Okay, when you tell a story like that, that person who sees this grainy spy photo goes, oh, they notice when I do good stuff. And now, have you ever heard the phrase they say, morals are what you do, how you behave when nobody's watching? Or
Of course.
integrity is what you do, is how you behave when nobody's watching. When they know that you're noticing in moments when they didn't think anybody noticed, now they are on their best behavior all the time. Because they go, oh, Eagle Eye's probably going to find out about this. You know?
That's one of the greatest takeaways, I think, of this whole podcast is I think I want to start recognizing the people on my team regularly, publicly, for the amazing things they do. Like, to me, I'm like, forget about talking about all the great stuff, that awards and all this stuff. If I could just make a post a week about a person on the team,
Yeah.
and their contribution to the team.
Well, can I add one caveat to that, though?
Of course.
Don't do it at a regular cadence where you're just celebrating everybody. Really do wait for those moments when somebody impressed you.
Okay.
Make it completely legit.
Okay.
And
I just wanted something I could schedule, but you're probably right.
well, no, I mean, you're very methodical and systematic, and you understand that consistency in social media posting it's a great strength, and it's the path to victory. Consistency.
So we just have to make it appear like it's real.
No, you know what I mean.
Okay.
I don't doubt that everybody in the building at one time or another is going to do something that impresses you, but it's like, wait for it to be completely legit.
Yeah.
So that they go, oh yeah, I'm so happy they noticed it.
You're the employee spotlight of the week.
Yeah. See, that's yeah.
Okay. So something that drives me insane is when I hear a leader go up and speak and they're reading a script. They're reading a script.
You mean like teleprompter?
Yeah, a teleprompter, or even off of paper, and it just comes off as so contrived and fake. It has, and maybe some people are really good at reading something and feeling, you like emotional. They can actually send it. But most of the time, you see these people speak in front of others with a script, and it's terrible. And so I want to know, what are some things that I can do if I have a very specific, not script, or maybe a script of what I want said, but I want to be able to say it with emotion and conviction as if it's not been written down, but it's flowing out of me naturally.
Well,
I know you're going to say practice.
yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth, is most leaders do not recognize how much energy it takes to look flawless. Or let me rephrase that. They don't appreciate how much rehearsal, practice, and energy it takes to look like it's coming out of you for the first time.
Now that is profound, because I think a lot of times we see it flow out so naturally. We're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're just really great.
They're just great.
And some people are, but no,
you're saying
I was never like that.
Put the work in.
I really, yeah, I do.
Rehearse it.
I'll give you an example. So I do these little 2.5-minute videos. That is probably take 28.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Because you say it like it's the first time.
Yeah, because I've done it 27 times before that. And every time I do it, I go, oh, I swallowed that word. Or, oh, I got a better word for that. I want to go back for the benefit of all of your people.
You're usually literally saying you're doing 20 to 30 takes.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, because...
So you're saying if someone's going to speak, or if I'm going to speak, and I do have to have it scripted, I need to rehearse the dickens out of it.
It all depends on length. It's really hard to get up there and memorize a presentation.
I mean, I was going to say it's like an actor with a great, very long monologue.
Yeah. All of the really great actors will tell you they are fiends for rehearsal. They will work that material, because you can't get spontaneous until it's so ingrained you don't have to think. Like, a great example of this is baseball players should not be able to hit baseballs that are thrown at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, it's so scary.
It's not supposed to be possible, meaning the time it takes for the electronic signal that comes into your mind to go down into your spine and back and out to the muscles and so forth. They've timed how long it takes for that signal. You don't actually physically have enough time to read that pitch. The body has to react without you thinking. It has to just react on its own. It needs to be a spinal column response to what's happening. And it's the same way with a great actor. They'll only turn in their best performance when they are so rehearsed that they don't have to think. Now they're here with you. Now they're feeling it. Now they're able to free themselves enough to not think about what they're saying so that they can listen to what you're saying. Rehearsal is an underestimated quotient. And I have seen guys at big companies who had a reputation for being just good on stage. And they were good on stage, but I watched them rehearse, and they were ferocious about how much time they put in, because they understood the stakes. I want you to imagine what it's like at a company. You're a young person. You're a young woman who's ambitious, wants to rise in that company, and you have an opportunity to present in front of influential people at your company. What's the difference between being electric and fantastic and really spotless?
A good cup of coffee. No.
What's the difference between that and turning in an average performance?
Rehearsal.
The difference in consequence is enormous.
Yeah.
You have just made an impression on people who are influential in your company. I saw up close at a very big company one of those people who understood that you'd never know when that opportunity is going to come. And they were very, very good. They had rehearsed the crap out of a very small thing they had to do. And this is what happens. So they didn't know it at the time, but there were two very senior executives. And this is a big company. So when you're a VP at this company, it was like, oh my God, if they know your name, that would be extraordinary. Because, the divisions are 3,000 people apiece.
Right.
Okay. So this person had it down. It was just a 3-minute thing, but In the middle of the presentation, this kind of glitch happened, this sort of, the slides didn't work, or they got delayed or something like that. And they just winged it because they knew the material. So they just kept going. And that without slide support, without so forth, they just kept going. And the bosses were like, it's a very poised young person. And when the opportunity then came to have somebody present something, they specifically asked for that person.
No kidding.
And all of a sudden, here's what happens. You are being invited to present at a meeting where the VPs are also presenting. You are now hanging out with them in the green room. You are backstage waiting to go on. They know who you are. They know who you are. And true to form, their material was down. All you had to do was wind them up and press play. And they went out there and were not intimidated. And all of a sudden, the VPs are going, that's my colleague. That's, they look at you as an equal.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to get up on a stage. Anybody, when I'm dealing with people and I'm trying to get them over their stage fright, which is a very, very common thing. A stage fright is very debilitating. All of a sudden the lights are they've got you in your head and you're in your head and you're not doing the material. The first thing you have to do is to say, first of all, this is not your fault. Stage fright's not your fault. That is a natural response. There's a reason you survived through history, that you're at the end of this chain, because your ancestors learned to freak out about standing in front of a bunch of eyes, unarmed, alone. Like they knew this was not a good thing and they fled. That's why you're here. You're just having a natural human response to danger. All of the signs are here. It's hundreds of eyes, no weapon, alone, spotlights on you. You're supposed to act like this. How do you get over it? Practice.
So there's a difference between practicing alone in your own office or your home with your iPhone and actually walking out in front of lots of people to share that story.
Yeah, you got to acclimatize yourself to it.
How do you do that? Start with having your spouse or a friend watch you?
Well, that's not a bad idea, but that's very sort of labor intensive to get somebody to watch your whole presentation. You got to take advantage of your phone. You got to film it. Now that's step one. The step one is I'm ready. At least I know I've got the material down. And then the second thing is you got to recognize this isn't your fault. You're going to react this way. It's perfectly natural. So don't get in your head like you're somehow deficient. Everybody else is going through the same thing. You just got to mind your business. Now, here's the third thing. Who is this for? Is this for you? Or is this for the audience? This is for the audience. So even if you're nervous, I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel bad because this is going to benefit them. What I hope, anyway, if you're getting up and standing in front of them, this is going to benefit them. Stay focused on, I just want to deliver the medicine here. I want to give you the good stuff. And even if I'm visibly shaking, you're not going to worry about it because you heard something that was going to be useful to you. It's really important you stay focused on the others. That'll get you out of your own head and it'll stop you worrying about yourself. A great leader who cares about other people is not self-conscious. Because they're not worried about how they're coming off. They're just focused on the needs of the other people. There's great comfort and relaxation in knowing that what you're about to tell people is useful. So let's pretend, for example, that you get to have the privilege of telling somebody they've been promoted and they've gotten a raise. Are you nervous?
No.
Not at all.
I'm happy for them.
You're totally happy about this. This is going to be a real pleasure. This is going to be a great thing. And when you're standing up in front of a meeting for your company and you get to tell somebody, you get to give somebody an award or you get to do something nice for somebody, the nervousness tends to dissipate because it's such a pleasure to deliver this information. You know this is going to be enjoyed by somebody. When you know they're going to enjoy it, you get a lot less self-conscious. And
So you have to reframe it in your mind a bit.
yeah,
You have to change your perspective of going on that stage or speaking on that camera from what are they going to judge me for,
yeah,
and change it to what I'm going to share with them is going to help them.
that's it. You got a good knack for distilling these things right down to the essence. That's what, yeah, that's it. 100% is reframe it. Just remember why you're getting up there. It's not because you are, you're doing a Broadway show. You're getting up there to deliver something useful that's going to benefit people. So just stay focused on that as much as you can. And don't be mad at yourself for experiencing the butterflies and the nervousness,
Because it's natural.
because it's a natural response.
It's something we invented, or I should say developed, was this VR platform that we can put our customers in, and they can sit in the room in the back, of the design of the general session,
Okay.
but they can also go up on the stage and with the lights in your face.
Oh my God.
And I haven't had anybody take us up on it yet, but I'm like, when is somebody going to want to actually have us ship them this headset and let them do their rehearsals on stage?
Oh, that's smart.
With the VR, right? I think it's going to happen. We haven't had anybody try that.
If the only reason you had that was to give people an opportunity to rehearse in the environment, that would still be worth it and a profit.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, how do we
100%.
help them rehearse better?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's stay on that for a minute, because that's a great idea that I'd never heard before. What that product will do, I mean, everything we've been talking about, I've been trying to stay focused on the idea of you got to rehearse these things, and you have to appreciate that the medium of video and standing up in front of a crowd is a career-changing skill. You are so far ahead. Like this young person gets invited to present with the VPs. You just leapfrogged an entire category of people. In the Hunger Games, you're down to 4 people now. Okay. But anyway, rehearsal is it's a big bugaboo of mine. You gotta rehearse. If you give people through that technology an opportunity to experience the environment and practice in the environment, you have raised their game 30% from the jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can even put their PowerPoints on the screens in VR,
Oh
or
my
their
God.
videos,
Yeah.
or whatever.
And it's such a great thing to be able to practice with your slides,
Yeah.
so that your transitions are much more elegant.
Yeah.
When people feel like it just feels like you've got this down, the audience relaxes. Have you ever been to a stand-up comedy show and somebody bombs?
Yes.
It's really uncomfortable
It's
for
very
the audience.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking for the people in attendance.
Yeah.
And I saw a guy bomb, and you felt so bad for this guy. Now, some people are heckling him and so forth, but I take no pleasure in this, brother. I feel for you. Well, when you are on stage like that and somebody is thriving, you have the opposite reaction. You get excited.
Yeah.
Because they're really good at it.
Yeah.
And strangely, the transition from one thought to another on slides, when it's smooth and it leads naturally from one thing to another, it really gives people the vibe like, oh, this pilot knows how to fly this plane.
Yeah. Yeah. Not like, that's the wrong slide. Let me go back to it.
Or I know that's an eye chart, blah, blah, blah. No. Don't ever put up an eye chart unless the purpose of it is to say, there's a reason I'm showing you stuff you can't read.
Yeah.
Now, to go back to this notion, though, of your VR headset, that would solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the environment, experiencing what it's going to look like, having the benefit of the slides be there, you are now empowered to run this through as many times as it takes you to be really good.
Yeah.
And to produce in the audience the emotional effect of going, I feel like this person is confident and comfortable, and now I feel at ease. It's the opposite of going, oh, this poor guy, I feel awful. He's bombing.
Yeah.
The
only thing we can't replicate yet is an audience that's like responding to the good or the bad.
Yeah. Well,
but AI might change that. We'll see.
I will say, though, that as a tool, that would be, oh my God, if I was at an event, like it was a big event, and I had the opportunity to do that, I would really feel like, oh, these people know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're here to help me succeed.
Right. 100%. That's why I'm such a proponent of having rehearsal days scheduled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tech check is on.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely 100%.
Some people are like, oh, it eats up budget. I'm like, yeah, but like it makes it so much more effective. Okay. Before we get going, I have a couple things I want to ask you. One is, how do people find you? If they want to look you up and they want to check out your videos and your stories.
Yeah. If you just know how to spell my name, you'll find me. It's Neal Foard. So it's Neal Foard, but it's Ford with an A in the middle. And the reason I make a big point of, if you just spell my name right, you'll find me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only one on earth who spells my name that way. And therefore, if you spell it right, you can find me.
And you have a heck of a YouTube channel.
nealfoard.com. And then I'm on YouTube and I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram and I'm on Blue Sky. And it's because I spell my name weird. I just like you, all they have to do is just spell it right. What I would recommend, is that if you find me, whether it's LinkedIn or YouTube, you'll also be able to find my storyfire.net, which is my storytelling course. And like I said before, you're not supposed to be the hero of your own story. I'm gonna break that rule right now.
Yeah.
To say I'm very proud of this program. It's basically 30 years of advertising and marketing distilled down into a course that's bite-sized 6-minute videos. It's hours of material.
Yeah.
But it's bite-sized lessons in little 6-minute
Well, I can't
increments.
wait. I'm going to get on there.
Oh, good.
That's really cool.
Yeah, www.storyfire.net.
Yeah.
And as I say, I'm quite proud of it. And part of the reason I'm so proud of it is there was a moment in my own career when I realized what a weapon storytelling was. I was in the creative side of advertising. And the creative side, it is very much like Hunger Games, which is there's going to be a last man standing at the end of any presentation. You have to present to your creative director. Okay, we're going to be doing an ad for Mazda and it's for this product and so forth. Okay, I'm hearing ideas now. We're going to go around the table and everybody's going to tell me their ideas. And it turns out a really great idea is sometimes hard to figure out. It's hard to know when it's a good idea because you're not seeing it on film. You don't see the finished product. It's like, can you imagine what it's like being in a movie studio and having to read script after script and determine from this written page whether it's a good movie or not? It's really hard to know. Everybody will tell you in Hollywood, you don't know. You can't tell. In the advertising genre that I was in, and you had to present to creative directors and executive creative directors, and you had to present to clients, it turns out that the way you present it had everything to do with whether they bought it or not. And the reason I learned that was I knew my idea wasn't as good as his, but I threw myself into the presentation of it, and it was funny and it was silly.
You presented it better.
I presented it better, and they chose my idea, and I thought, oh, you just got cheated. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. But oh, that was a better idea.
Maybe you should have pitched their idea.
Yeah. In the end, that's what I wound up doing was I got into the role where I was the one pitching the ideas.
Yeah.
Because just like this young person who got seen by the VPs, when you became good at pitching the ideas, if you want your idea done, you'll have me sell it for you.
Yeah.
And it turns out that we said, you know what? Why stop at a good story? Why stop at a good presentation? Let's go all in. When clients come to the office, the room smells like something. The lighting is carefully done. Everybody's got a place setting in front of them with a series of little toys or foods or something.
It's deliberate.
That's deliberate and consistent with the theme. There's music when they come in, and the videos and the presentations. We used to do this. You'll notice on any of the videos that I do on TikTok or on YouTube, there's always a soundtrack. People aren't fully conscious of it, but there's always music to it. I learned the lesson that when you're making a presentation, if you can put a piece of music under you subtly, it helps control the emotion that they're meant to feel. And when we went to that phase, people were like, oh, please. You have to present against these people? These people take this seriously.
Game over.
These people are like, in the Hunger Games, I intend to win this.
Yeah.
Right? But why did we do that? Because we wanted to be the best part of that client's day. It wasn't about us. It was about what are they experiencing that day. I want, just like a car salesman who sells, I want to sell you the next car and the next car. Our whole thing was, I want you to crave to come back to this office to see another pitch. I want to make this fun for you.
Just think of how much business that leads to over the years of compounding that.
Yeah.
And the stories they tell about to other people to come do the same thing.
Which happened. We would do a presentation. I remember us going into Toyota and we were doing radio presentations. Now, the thing about radio is it's theater of the mind. So there's a kind of a weird advantage. If you bring it over and the three of us act it out, it's fun. It's silly. It's stupid. It's great. And if we were presenting to the truck guys, they would sometimes go, wait, stop. And they would run out and get the car guys and have them come over to watch it. And that was one of those seminal moments where you go, hang on. They're literally going out and getting their colleagues to come in and listen to this. We must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this Storyfire course, it's like how to get there.
Yeah.
How to go it's the distilled lessons from all of that experience from just presenting it a little bit better to learning that every experience that a customer has is then how they're going to perceive you. And that's your brand.
It's so good. Neal, I always like to wrap up by asking a very deep question, which I have no doubt you'll love.
We'll see.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Right now, we live in an age of division. Algorithms are, rage baiting, and you are very professional people, highly skilled psychologists and engineers are dividing us. They're making us upset with one another. I want to be the countervailing voice that says, most people are all right. Most of us are pretty cool. And don't feel like you have enemies everywhere, because you don't. And don't rise to that bait and then become that guy who's angry in the gym. Don't do that. See people for what they are. They're struggling just like you. They want to feel welcome. They want to feel safe. They want to feel appreciated. Be the person who appreciates other people. I've seen it in the gym. I've seen it in the office. I've seen it from perfect strangers. When they go in being the person who wants to bring people together and wants to see the better part of people, that energy that they send out kind of gets reflected back. I want to be the voice that we're not so bad. If you really dig down, most of us are not so bad. And in that way, and just my small, I'm not gonna overcome the algorithms. I'm just one person. But I know that you and I are on the same vibe of let's keep it positive. Let's try to help people out when we can. Let's make our clients feel like when we're with them, it's the best part of their day. And they'll go and they'll do the same thing for other people because we've modeled that for them. And B, that's just the natural reaction. When you feel appreciated and you feel welcomed and you go out there and you do the same thing. So that's what I want to be known for.
From the moment I met you, you have done that for me.
Oh, right on.
And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad
Back
we
at you. Thank you.
got to know each other. And this has been so fun. Will you come back?
Oh, are you kidding me?
And let's dive into even more storytelling stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Because I got a million more things to talk about, which are all on Storyfire. but I do have some great further things to talk about. Like why do people react the way? So yeah,
we will do 100%. That. We will do that. Good. We were definitely going to do that. Neal Foard, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I thank you for coming up here to cold Minnesota in the middle of a snowstorm.
It's delightful because of the warmth of you and your crew.
Thank you.
Hey, if you like this episode, make sure you subscribe, share it with somebody you like, and of course, make sure you check out my company, Eide. We produce conferences and events all over the US, and if you know of a conference or an event that's looking for the best company in the business, check out eidecom.com.